I've just come back to beer for good, right? So the choices that we make, from sourcing ingredients to making beer more efficiently to how we treat our employees and how we treat our customers, we want to leave here with the world being a better place, right? Yeah.
You are listening to the Capital Craft Podcast, brought to you by the San Diego Brewers Guild. I am your host, Eric Fowler.
My name is Jeff Fox with Beer Media Co.
Hi, I'm Winslow Sawyer. I'm co-founder of Pure Project Brewing in San Diego. I'm kind of the leader of all things beer at Pure.
All things beer.
I love that. That's a great title.
Yeah, we appreciate you sitting down today. And, you know, our paths have crossed a couple times in the last couple years, and it seems to always come back to innovating new beer styles and incorporating purpose and message into those. Would you give us an update on what's going on and what some of the fun collaborations that y'all have been working on?
Yeah, definitely. We're always focusing on using local ingredients. Right now it's strawberry season, so we're brewing a lot with some local strawberries grown by JR Organics in Fallbrook, working on some cool stuff in our Mix Firm project, and Tropical Mist, which is our kind of citrus, misty blonde ale. It's one of our core beers, has oranges from Fallbrook from Lodge Organics. That beer is really taking off, and we're really hoping to see that in more cans and more locations this year. So it's really exciting to be able to take things grown in San Diego, put them in to containers, and give them to everyone that lives here.
Yeah. And I think the last time that I saw you actually was us bent over a big trash bag of what, Kefir lime leaves or something.
Yeah, exactly. We're brewing some wacky estate beers. I got shouldered with the responsibility of brewing the Saison from locally harvested yeast that you guys grew up for us, and then we use locally grown lime leaves and I think limes also from the same tree. Yeah. It's like mom's backyard beer, you know?
Yeah, it came out great. But, you know, why go through the hassle, right? There's a lot of extracts or even purees that are more consistent. I would say that they can be more expressive of what the consumer would think that flavor should be in a beer, right? You know, sometimes
part, right?
Translating it doesn't actually, like strawberries, doesn't always taste like
strawberries,
the bright expression of strawberries. So why go through that hassle of using a more expensive ingredient and something that's harder to work with?
Our ethos has always been beer for good. We want to help save the world, our climate, our environment, through the choices we make, how we make beer, and where we source the ingredients. My background is in sustainable agriculture. That's what I went to school for. And so we always want to be working directly with farmers, getting money directly into the hands of the farmers, and working with people who are going above and beyond to use organic growing practices, sustainable methods, and just show respect for this planet that we live on.
I mean, I think you touched on something there that, myself as a marketing person, is trying to drive into a lot of the clients that we work with, which is, a collaboration is just an opportunity to kind of show what your brand is all about. What would you say your brand is, and how does that kind of match? You kind of touched on it, but.
Yeah, I've just come back to beer for good, right? So the choices that we make, from sourcing ingredients to making beer more efficiently to how we treat our employees and how we treat our customers, we want to leave here with the world being a better place, right?
Yeah. And even though it costs a little bit more, it works because it's true to your brand, it's true to who you guys are.
I think the biggest thing that people are starting to realize about, especially with climate change and seeing insurance prices on flood control and wildfires, is the hidden costs of making these choices. Like buying the cheaper product, you pay for it in other ways, right? There's no such thing as a free lunch, right? Everyone's heard that. I think that we make those same choices with everything we consume.
Yeah, but I think it's difficult right now, in 2024 with inflation and a more stabilization of demand of craft beer. It makes it pretty difficult to make that decision on where you draw the line.
Yeah, Cali burrito is like $13 now, and it's like half the size. I totally get it. So I think it's just trying to give people quality on top of the story, and knowing that someone in their community is also growing some of the ingredients in the beer, right? I think that connection, San Diego has always been about San Diego culture and, you know, the people that are in this community. And I think when people can make that connection, we can be like, this is the guy that grows the oranges. We don't just get it in a box and pour it into the beer or in a little bottle and make it taste like oranges, right? This is the guy who grows the oranges. It's a family business, and he's your neighbor.
I love that.
Yeah. Are some of those relationships, do they ever influence what ingredients you use, how you use them, or when you use them? Does the farmer or the person delivering it ever say, hey, actually next month I'm really expecting a cool crop of whatever?
Yeah, it's definitely inspired a lot of beers. I mean, when we first started, I have this beer that I really want to make again. It was like a Boddington's clone almost, but it was with orange blossoms. So I got like our farmer, he's saying like, oh, if like I can get you some extra orange blossoms, we're gonna thin the trees. It's like, what can I do with that? So I just got a whole trash bag full of orange blossoms and like dry hopped a beer with them.
Oh, interesting.
And like it was such a crazy beer. I'm just trying to figure out how to remake it.
So what's the season for that? No.
It's right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
And does cost ever affect decision making when it comes to using, you know, not only adjuncts, but, you know, specific grains or even new hop varieties that are coming out? How much does that impact, you know, because that's kind of the dirty truth of running a business is we like to think we can throw everything we want in there, but at the end of the day, we have to ask, is the guest walking through the door going to drink it? And does it make sense? And can we charge what we need to charge for it?
Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits to kind of our business model. We're very fortunate to have 5 tasting rooms. So that's enough locations that we pretty much can brew like a 15 to 30 barrel batch of like a pretty expensive beer with expensive local ingredients in it. We know we can sell it all through our tasting rooms. But then in the case of, you know, like our mass marketed beers like Tropical Mist, the one with local oranges, we've tried and find ingredients that have not only great expression, but can work with those like economies, right? So right now we're brewing strawberry beers, and it's like the beers end up being like 5 times as expensive to make as like IPA.
Wow.
And it's like we can't sell a keg for $500 to someone. Like we don't want the end consumer having to pay you know, $15, $20 a pint for a beer, right? We don't want to do that to people, but we can serve in our own tasting rooms and create an outlet for it, right? And get people excited, because this is a beer that they wouldn't be able to get at a beer bar, because nobody can make a beer like this and sell it to a beer bar and have it make sense, right?
Sure. That's an interesting perspective.
yeah, actually being able to utilize the multiple tap rooms to be able to like kind of guarantee, well, not guarantee, but you know what I mean? Like actually like augment those sales, make sure that you actually have, you know, you can work the margin in there and stuff so that you can make it work. That's awesome.
And definitely like over the years, it's trying to figure out, okay, we make all these different beers, and that's kind of how our core beers in a certain sense have emerged. 2 years ago, we moved to Vista and took over the Iron Fist facility. So before, we were on a 7-barrel brew house in Miramar, right down the street from you at White Labs, and we were making a lot of beer on it. We were brewing 4,000 barrels a year on a 7-barrel brew house, which was a lot. It was crazy, but still, it's like at that economy of scale, right? Like, it just didn't make sense to be like, okay, now we're going to can beer and sell it to liquor stores and do all this, right? Whereas now we're in Vista, we have twice as big of a brew house, and we're able to make more beer more efficiently. We've got a centrifuge, we're putting in a silo right now. So all those economies of scale help us get towards being able to have like a product that makes sense on the shelf for people. So this last year we got into like all the Whole Foods in California, which is great, but our beer is still expensive, and it is in these like higher end outlets. So how do we figure out how to give beer to the people, right?
Yeah.
Now is a harder time than ever for breweries to navigate the rapidly changing market, but Beer Media Co. is here to help. As a proud partner of the San Diego Brewers Guild, we are a full-service digital marketing and content creation company that works with San Diego breweries to reach new customers and create amazing engagement for their websites and social media accounts. If you are a small brewery owner trying to figure out the whole social media thing, or a larger brewery looking to up their engagement, send us a message at info@beermedia.co. Attention brewery professionals, are you looking to elevate your presence in the heart of San Diego's craft beer industry? Consider joining the San Diego Brewers Guild as a professional or affiliate member today. Access exclusive benefits designed to propel your craft to new heights. Gain entry to premier industry events and educational resources, and forge vital connections within our brewing community. Visit sdbeer.com to explore the full list of advantages that a membership offers. Join the Capital of Craft podcast and the San Diego Brewers Guild, celebrating craft beer in San Diego since 1997.
Yeah, and I think the demographic that is interested in your story, while it might be more inaccessible across the board, it makes sense for you to be a premium product, knowing that you're putting all these ingredients to hopefully raise the tide so everybody else can eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been, when we first started, we were canning some beer and selling it wholesale in Miramar, and our beer was so expensive. And that's when, a 6-pack of 16-ounce Swamis were like $9.99 at 7-Eleven. We're like, oh, are we crazy? Like, we have a $20 4-pack.
I still buy a lot of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's my go-to. I drink Ponto. Ponto is my beer, but we haven't had to raise prices because our economies of scale have gotten better, and we've seen finally all the prices are starting to like raise. I think there was a kind of like a certain point in the beer market where everyone was like at a like sort of like race to the bottom of like who can have the cheapest 6-pack to get the most sales, because I mean, you don't want to like lose shelf space because you increase your cost of your beer by $2. People are really price conscious when they're at, Safeway, like buying a 6-pack, or like, why would I get this IPA when I could get this IPA? It's $2 cheaper. Same amount of beer, right?
Yeah.
There's an interesting piece with also like using local ingredients and having the local tap rooms, like how that goes really well together. So, even if you can't necessarily can it and ship it nationally with the economies of scale and stuff and keep that cost down.
Yeah.
The fact that you can keep it local and everything like that is super interesting.
Yeah. And that goes along with also like our business plan. Like there's only so big that Pure Project can get and stay true to our ethos. Right. So I think we've definitely seen over the last like decade, like being in that like 20 to 60,000 barrel brewery is kind of a scary place. A lot of change, especially the local market in the last decade. I don't know, just like you never know what people are going to buy. You can plan on selling all this beer, you can have all this forecasting done, and then all of a sudden, people don't buy a beer anymore and everything goes sideways. And I'd rather just stay true to our ethos and stay true to our employees, stay true to our customers. And
I think sales model impacts the range of distribution and shelf stability and freshness too a lot, right? Where a lot of these breweries that would grow to that 20 to 60,000 barrels, like your model changes so much, your beer's going to end up either shipping a lot further or sitting on a shelf for a lot longer. And your beer specifically is very perishable in my experience. When it's fresh, it's amazing. Unfortunately, I don't see it very often where it's not. But because you're using these wild ingredients and they're so hop forward, your window to get it in front of the right people at the right time is very difficult.
One thing that helps with that is luckily we're self-distributed, so we're not having to send something to a distributor and then it go through a third hand on the way to our customers. But like 30 days on an IPA, like I hate it when there's no date codes on an IPA in a store. It drives me crazy. I'm just like, I don't know. Should I take a gamble on it?
I was in a liquor store a couple months ago, and I heard the guy asking somebody else that worked there, how long the IPA is good for? And he's like, oh, like at least 12 months. And I was just like,
well, I mean, they're not gonna make you sick. But it's gonna taste like barley wine.
If you're lucky. But most recently, y'all have been working with Patagonia on a pretty cool collaboration. Would you tell us a little bit more about the beer and then the story behind it?
Patagonia, Yvon Chouinard and Patagonia have been huge inspirations for us as a business. Since day one, we've been a 1% for the planet company, so we give 1% of our gross sales, so 1% off the top of everything, to nonprofits that are approved by the 1% organization. That was started by Yvon Chouinard of Patagonia, and we've, the ethos behind Patagonia is always what's driven a lot of our business decisions. So it was really amazing when they reached out to us and asked us if we wanted to brew this beer, Kernza Lager. You may have remember versions of it in the past. There was like the long root one that was brewed by a brewery out of Oregon, but they kind of shifted it up because their goal really is, what this quote from Jan Shari, he's like, people buy a jacket like once every 10 years, but they eat every day. So if we can start changing the way our food systems work, maybe that's the best way to save our planet, right? So they're trying to create demand for this new grain. Well, it's not a new grain, but it's newly come into commercial agriculture called Kernza. And what Kernza is it's a perennial grain. So instead of your typical wheat and barley, which are planted once a year and you cut everything down, burn the fields, till it in, you plant it once and you can harvest it year after year. So what this does is it keeps all the carbon in the ground because you're not having to till, and it allows the root structure of the grain to grow really long and huge, and it sequesters way more carbon into the soil. So it's a way to, keep all this from going into the atmosphere. The problem is it only has 1/10 the yield of wheat, right? So for a farmer to make the decision to plant this, the benefits are going to be completely outweighed by hey, I'm making 1/10 the amount of profit off this field, right? So this beer allows us and a group of about 25 other breweries to have almost a contractual agreement with this grower, Mad Ag, who has brought Kernza and got it into commercial cultivation, to know that they have an outlet for this. Yes, it does cost 10 times as much as wheat, but it's for a good cause. It's regenerative organic certified, which is a new certification that's like almost beyond organic. I know that's hard to explain and kind of woo-woo, but
organic plus.
Yeah, organic plus, but it has to do with them not looking at the agricultural system, but the social justice around their farm workers, employees, how the business is run, and making sure that they're not just putting chemicals on it, because that's mainly what organic is, right? So it's trying to make sure that agricultural ecosystem is putting more in than what's being removed from the land and the people. So the beer is an all organic lager. Each brewery is brewing a different version of it. Our version is all organic Pilsner from Admiral Malting up in Alameda, grown in California. It's 85% that, 15% the regenerative organic Kernza, and then the hops are organic Motueka, who our friend Colin in New Zealand grows, New Hoplands.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
What's with the Kernza? Is it a little bit flavor profile different than traditional wheat? Like, how does that kind of work with it?
It's almost like kind of like a spelt. I want to say it has definitely a grainy taste to it, or malty, grainy. It has almost a little touch of like a breakfast cereal cream of wheat thing. The first preliminary batch I brewed was a bit hazy. I'm not sure what the contribution is, like protein wise, from the grain, but
Is
we're
there
brewing.
gluten?
I'm not sure if there's gluten. I'm sure there must be. It's like, I think it's a derivative of wheat.
Okay.
So we're brewing a bigger batch in Vista right now, and we have the centrifuge. So we'll see if the haze is still there from the first batch. There's like a slight chill haze to it. So I think that's pretty like proteinous. Kind of almost like a flaked wheat thing, but the grains are really tiny. It looks almost like flaxseed. So you have to like tighten up the mill. Like I jammed the mill like 3 times trying to mill it.
Yeah. Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Oh man! And flavor, does it match well with other ingredients in a different way than like traditional wheat? Like how?
Yeah, definitely. It has a unique flavor to it. I would say the best way is just come out and try it. I was really excited to brew with it, but I think what makes really good craft lagers, is having some like grain profile to it, whereas macro lagers, it's just water.
Yeah.
And
water and sulfur.
Yeah, but you have like these nice like beautiful like grain profiles, nice bready, toasty, the Wireman Pilsner kind of thing. I think it really makes a good lager. So come out and try it.
Yeah. So you and the team are obviously really excited about this. What has it been? I guess at time of the time this episode releases, the the beer will obviously have been in the market for a little bit, but what's the reception outside of the team at Pure Project, and how do you all plan on telling the story to guests walking through your door?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the reason why Patagonia Provisions wanted to do it the way they're doing it. So we made an agreement only to sell it in our tasting rooms. We're not packaging it for wholesale. I think they may be partnering with a larger brewery to have like kind of like a somewhat of a national rollout of it. But the important thing to them was us being able to tell the story, like, why is this beer important? Why is Kernza important? And why is it more expensive, right? So being able to have that one-on-one, I think that's something that we do really well at Pure Project, is tell the stories of the beers, and it's really nice to have a reason and a why behind the beers that we make.
What is kind of the run of this beer? Are you going to do a single batch, or is it going to be kind of like a...
So we're going to have it in our tasting rooms at all time. We're hoping to can a batch sometime this year. I don't know exactly when. It's like, it's trying to get the cans printed. You know, there's like all these backups now on getting cans printed. Yep. So we're trying to get the cans printed, and then we have to figure out the timing between like packaging a new batch. But we're hopefully going to have it in cans, but it'll be to go only in the tasting room.
Yeah.
You won't see it like on shelves from us.
Yeah, so the ethos behind this beer is something that I think Pure Project has been very upfront about since inception. Do you find that your type of customer is coming in to be educated, or they're coming in because they kind of already know that you're doing the work and they want to support the work?
I think there's both. I think there's people who don't care at all and just want good beer. I hope those people are coming to our tasting room too. But I think as people start to know the why behind the beer, it will give them more reason to care. Obviously, I'm not trying to like indoctrinate everyone into like why I do things. Like, I love beer for the sake of beer. I'm a brewer, right? I love that beer creates culture and creates communication and creates a table for us to talk over about, our similarities, our differences, what needs to change about the world. But hopefully people see the why and the reason behind why we do what we do, and why we make the choices to do certain things and why we don't have certain things.
Yeah. So what are some projects that are in the same vein that you would like to work on in the next 5 to 10 years, or maybe even a shorter term,
Yeah. Something we're working on right now is we're working in a couple hop breeding programs, one with New Zealand hops, and then with also Yakima Chief, to try and create better agronomics for the farmers, right? We're trialing hop varieties that are either, they're pest resistant or need less inputs, or they're drought tolerant. So trying to help out form the future of what hop growing looks like on the agriculture side as well as the flavor side. And then alternative hop products, that was something that was kind of a difficult thing for me to come to terms with, right? As these new types of products are coming out, right? We were always like very anti-extract, right? Because it's like not, in my head, it's like, it's not the real ingredient. It's not giving the ingredient justice or whatever it is. It was kind of just me.
Yeah, it's further processed.
Yeah, it was my own internal like Reinheitsgebot, but seeing the efficiencies it can create, right? Like when we were making IPAs in Miramar, we were losing like a third of the batch to hop absorption.
Yeah.
Is that sustainable? Right?
Right.
If I can get an extra 5 kegs of beer and have the beer still taste great and be amazing, like, is that a sustainability win? Right.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to process through that, and now we're really excited to be like experimenting with some of these products.
I think our industry will find that line and that limit at some point, because when you're starting to work with some of these extracts, you can get the same chemical from, say, an orange peel, and it's going to be a lot cheaper than hops. But is that part of the ethos of craft beer? Like, I don't have the answer, and I don't think anybody individually does. But at some point, we're going to hit that line on, they're all just chemicals at the end of the day.
Like food coloring, and it's like we're just gonna use a seltzer base and then put in like a grain flavor because grain has gotten too expensive. It doesn't grow well in North America anymore, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's like crazy stuff, right? Like there was a bad barley harvest like 2 years ago, and we're still feeling that in the brewing industry, seeing the cost of raw ingredients. And it took almost like 2 years for that to trickle down to consumers, which was also really crazy how slow things move. As far as, gas prices change every single day, whereas beer prices, like I think us as, breweries, were very conscious of how much we're selling beer for. And we don't want to aggravate or dissuade our consumers, right? So some of these kind of trickle down economics are just, they take a lot longer to hit the consumer in the beer side, I feel like.
Yeah. And, we're going to continue to see some of those changes. And there's obviously on the hop side, going to be a lot of changes in the next couple of years in terms of what they're planning and what contracts are coming to an end and how they're developing those contracts. San Diego State is actually working on a cool project right now that they're growing about 750 vines in a greenhouse, and they're looking at different temperatures to see what varieties do well, knowing that, the future of beer. The temperature is going to rise, and to see, okay, these varieties can do well in 2 degrees warmer, and these can't. It's very, this conversation today, has come back to COGS a lot, but I think it's good to look at it from like a pragmatic approach where we want these things. And 5-10 years ago with breweries, hell, we would just do it. Yeah. What did it cost? I don't know. Somebody's going to buy it. It's cool. But now, to run a successful business, it all has to line up and make sense.
Yeah, it does.
And those partnerships, I think, with companies like Patagonia are more impactful now. And we were talking before, like maybe why those weren't so impactful. Maybe they're more impactful now because of the detail that's going into those relationships. Whereas before it's swing by and brew a beer. And we still have some of that, but
ale for ale's sake.
Where you just basically put someone's name on it and like, I know some of those.
Well, we thank you for taking time out to talk to us and our listeners. And where can anybody listening find out more about Pure and kind of see what you have going on?
Yeah, we release a lot of beers every year, so definitely the best place to check out what we're doing and keeping up with the story is our Instagram. Our mailing list is great. Pure Brewing is our Instagram handle, and if you go to our website purebrewing.org, our mailing list is awesome too. There's some very in-depth stories that we do with our producers that don't really make it into the blips on the bottom of the Instagram, like TikTok reels,
I love it. Well, and if you liked what you heard today, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell. And if you've actually had a chance to try that Kernza lager, I'd love to hear what you think about it in the comments. But we hope to see you next time.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Cheers.